Welcome to another episode of Stocks to Watch for exclusive one-on-one discussions with company leaders to help you make informed investment decisions. I'm Ashley Berry, and today we're welcoming Tim Warman, CEO and Director of Atacama Copper, a Vancouver-based resource company focused on acquiring, exploring, and developing base and precious metals properties in the Americas and Chile. They're trading on the TSXV as ACOP. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
So as a geologist, you have plenty of experience and can probably identify signs of a successful project very early on from the get-go. So why did you assume the role of CEO at your current company?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate in my career to be involved with a number of really successful companies. We've made some spectacular discoveries, including Fruta del Norte in Ecuador and a few others. And I really, I like big projects. And when I went down and looked at the projects in Chile for the first time, I was impressed by the potential scale of them. They sit right in the middle of what's currently the biggest undeveloped copper project in the Americas. And we sit between the two halves of those. So I like the setting and the potential. And the same in Mexico. It's got potential to have some significant size to it. It's just as much work to manage a small project as it is a large project. So I prefer to work on bigger projects.
Fantastic. And, we talked about, precious base metals. And speaking of projects, maybe expanding on that, projects in Mexico, starting with the Christina project. Your recent drilling work has really identified impressive gold grades there, I understand. So perhaps you can expand on the most recent results and the full potential of this project, and also the latest mineral resource estimate and how you can sort of expand on that potential. Kind of a two-part question there.
Yeah. Christina is a really interesting project, and it's really the one that we're focused on the most right now. We were drilling on it as we speak. It's a series of veins, very typical in Mexico, these kind of deposits. In fact, the largest primary silver mine in the world is just down the road from us, and it's a similar type of veins with precious metals, gold and silver in them. And that's what Christina is really. And what we're focused on right now is proving out that we have a potential for a high-grade underground gold and silver mine here. We're getting some impressive grades, 8 grams over significant widths, some up to 8 meters wide, which is really wide for a vein deposit, which makes it much easier to drill out, and it also makes it much easier to mine underground going forward without a lot of dilution. So we think it's got a lot of potential. We're in the early stages right now. I think we've released the first 5 of what will probably be about 100 holes coming out of this. But our goal is to get an initial resource in that sort of 1.5 million to 2 million ounces of underground mineable gold and silver resource. So that's the goal there, and I think we're progressing well with that.
Fantastic. And so when you talk about the sheer number of holes, and I guess just breaking it down, the significance of copper in general, for our audience and for our listeners, if you might give them a little better sense of why copper is so important.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing about the companies. We have a nice blend of precious metals projects in Mexico, and then we have quite a significant copper project in Chile. And obviously, if you look at any of the forecasts on supply and demand for copper, we can see that supply is going to be demand is going to be increasing, particularly with EVs and electrification just in general. And the number of new copper discoveries to feed those needs for copper just aren't happening. The number of discoveries have fallen off. They've gotten deeper. They've gotten harder to find. They've gotten harder to mine. And so, I think it's one of the reasons in particular I got involved with Atacama is I think the future is pretty bright for copper and for copper miners in particular.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I think it plays a critical role really in environmental sustainability as well. Let's talk about the Placetón project in Chile. Maybe you can elaborate on how far you've progressed there and really how supportive the Chilean government is of those projects.
Yeah, Chile is the #1 copper mining country in the world. So obviously the government has a vested interest. They have a state mining company, Codelco, that provides a large part of the Chilean budget to fund the various programs in Chile. So Chile's always been very pro-mining, very accommodating towards miners. There was a company just recently got permitted, a company called Rio 2. They just got their permits to construct a new gold mine there. So, Chile's always been a pretty comfortable place to work. Like anywhere, you're seeing increasing environmental regulations, but I think those are sensible and they're manageable and they're fine for the industry. In terms of our Placetón project, it's a fairly early stage project. It was staked a few years ago, but it was held privately for a long time and not a lot was done there. But as I said, it sits right in the middle of the largest undeveloped copper project in the Americas right now, which is a joint venture between Teck and Newmont, two of the largest mining companies in the world. They're mining basically from two centers, and our projects sit right between those two centers. And so I think there's a lot of potential synergies with that larger project. If we find something there, I think it'll be pretty exciting. We're doing some geophysics on it right now. In fact, our VPX is down in Chile right now, overseeing that work, and we should have results, from that one out in the next few weeks. So it's got some real potential there. I mean, there's a property that looks just like it down the road that belongs to Newmont that has something like 17 billion pounds of copper and 10 million ounces of gold in it. It's a copper gold porphyry, and we're hoping for fingers crossed, something that looks a little bit like that. Maybe not quite as large, but you never know.
Yeah, and it truly sounds like terrific proximity. And then also, when you talk about the Chilean government and that support, I have to imagine that that is instrumental to success, because if you don't have that support, it makes it very difficult to do what you need to do. What are the next milestones you're focusing on for these properties? Maybe you could share to investors, budding investors, potential investors, why they should consider adding Atacama Copper to their portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, the sort of adages in mining is that you bet on the team, and I think we've assembled a team that really is first among equals really in the mining industry right now. I've had a number of successes in my career, been involved with some very successful companies. We bought the previous company I was with. We bought an asset for $5 million, and 3 years later, we sold it for $170 million. So we've had some good wins in the industry, and our VPX is equally talented and equally successful. And so that's one of the key things, I guess, that sets us apart. We've also got a tremendous investor base. We've got people like Pierre Lassonde, who's a mining billionaire. He's had a number of successes. He formed Franco-Nevada Royalty Company. He's a major investor. We have a major strategic investor, one of the larger gold producers, as an investor in our company. And then we've got Ross Beaty and his Lumina Group as well. Again, another successful mining billionaire. So we've got a real key bank of supporters and shareholders behind us. And I really think that drives the growth of the company, not just from our current projects, but we've also got a mandate to grow, to add new projects, to find potentially new operating mines that we could bring into the company and operate. And really, we want to start with the current assets. We think they're very good assets, but we want to see that company continue to grow and get considerably larger. And I think we have all the things we need for that.
Yeah, and it certainly sounds like you have some significant ambassadors rallying around your mission, as you said, betting on your team. Tim Warman, CEO and Director of Atacama Copper. Again, thank you for joining us. They're trading on the TSXV as ACOP. Thanks again for your time, Tim. And thank you for joining us here on Stocks to Watch. We look forward to following your company closely.
Thank you.